It was 8 o'clock at night on December 26th when the Child Protective Services worker knocked on my door. My kids were opening their Christmas presents. She had an order to investigate a report of elder abandonment. My mother had called CPS saying I had abandoned her, that she had been alone for weeks without food, without medication, without anyone. I felt my legs trembling. It was the fourth false accusation that year. The other three had been at the police station, at the hospital, and at my company. My mother lived 5 blocks away from me. I had been there 3 days earlier to bring groceries. She had just gotten back from a cruise trip, but this time she had crossed a line I could no longer ignore. She had involved my children, and I was finally going to prove who she really was. My relationship with my mother had always been an emotional roller coaster. When I was a child, she would alternate between being the most loving mother in the world and punishing me with days of absolute silence. I remember coming home from school excited to tell her about a test I had aced, and she would simply ignore me for an entire week because I had talked back at breakfast. I was 8 years old and didn't understand what I had done wrong. My father divorced her when I was 12. He told me years later, when I was already an adult. I couldn't take it anymore, Camilla. It was always a new drama, always an invented crisis. One day she'd say she had cancer, the next that she was going to kill herself. I spent 15 years walking on eggshells, afraid to breathe wrong. He had left home leaving everything behind, including most of the custody. I grew up angry at him for that. Only now, decades later, did I understand why. I married Bruno 5 years ago. In the beginning, my mother adored him. She called him every day, sent homemade meals, said she had gained a son, until the day she realized he supported me in setting boundaries. When I said we couldn't have dinner with her every Friday, because we needed time for ourselves, she turned the tables. Then he became the villain who stole her daughter, the manipulator who had alienated me from the family. When my first daughter, Sophia, was born, my mother was perfect for 3 months. She came to the house every day, helped, brought food, was the ideal grandmother I had always dreamed of having. But it was a honeymoon. Then it started. She complained that I didn't ask for her opinion about anything, that I was raising Sophia the wrong way, that I was excluding her from her granddaughter. When Miguel was born, there wasn't even a honeymoon. She started right away criticizing the name we chose. The false accusations started a year ago, right after I set firmer boundaries. The first one was at the police station. She called saying I had stolen jewelry from her, a pearl necklace from my grandmother and gold earrings. I had to go give a statement, bring Bruno as a witness, prove that the jewelry never existed. The detective was polite, but I saw judgment. In her eyes, just another family fight. My mother cried at the police station saying she was confused, that she might have imagined the theft because she was so hurt by me. The detective dismissed the case with a warning to her about false accusations. I left there humiliated, with a lump in my throat that lasted for days. 2 months later, on a Tuesday at 3 in the afternoon, she called 911 saying she was having a heart attack. I was notified by neighbors who had seen the ambulance. I arrived at her house terrified, heart racing, imagining the worst. I found the paramedics leaving, frustrated. She was in the living room watching TV, eating popcorn, with perfect blood pressure. She told the paramedics she thought she was going to have a heart attack because she had anxiety from thinking so much about me. One of the paramedics turned to me and said, visibly irritated, "Ma'am, you need to understand that we have real emergencies to attend to." I left there embarrassed and furious, but afraid to confront her, because I knew the next step. She would do everything to play the victim even more. The third accusation almost cost me my job. It was a September morning. I was in an important meeting presenting a campaign when my boss called me out of the room. His face was serious, worried. "Camilla, HR received a call from your mother." My stomach froze. She had called saying I was embezzling money from her, that I had power of attorney over her accounts and was stealing, taking thousands of dollars every month. I had to go to the HR office, in front of the manager and the director, and explain that I had no power of attorney, that my mother had her own accounts that I didn't even access. I felt the worst embarrassment of my life. In the end, I made up that my mother was showing signs of dementia, that she was confused. A lie. She had nothing. She was lucid, calculating, and cruel. But it was the excuse I found so I wouldn't have to admit out loud, to my boss and to myself, that my own mother was trying to destroy me. I came home that day and broke down. Bruno found me crying on the bathroom floor. "I can't take it anymore," I said. "She's going to destroy me." That's when I scheduled therapy with Dr. Patricia, and she was the one who made me see my mother wasn't going to stop, ever. Christmas had been the breaking point. For the first time in 32 years, I decided not to invite my mother to Christmas at my house. It wasn't an easy decision. I spent weeks in therapy discussing it, crying, feeling guilty. Dr. Patricia had been clear. Camilla, you need to protect your children. Sophia is 5 years old and is already having nightmares about her grandmother screaming. This isn't healthy. She was right. My mother had ruined the previous Christmas in such a brutal way that I still had flashbacks. She arrived drunk, stumbling smeared makeup. In the middle of dinner, out of nowhere, she stood up and accused Bruno of having an affair with the neighbor, in front of my mother-in-law, my brothers-in-law, everyone. Bruno tried to calm her down. She threw wine on him. Then she went to the kitchen, opened the oven, grabbed the turkey I had spent all morning preparing, and threw it in the trash, screaming that it was dry and that I didn't know how to do anything right. She left slamming the door, screaming that we were all ungrateful, that she would never come back. Sophia cried all night long, hugging me, asking why Grandma was angry. Miguel, only 2 years old, was terrified by the screaming, couldn't sleep. He had nightmares for weeks. So I decided, this Christmas would be different. It would just be us. Me, Bruno, the kids, and his parents who had always been loving and respectful. I called my mother on December 15th. My hands were sweating. Mom, this year we're going to have a small Christmas, just immediate family. She was silent. That cold silence I had known since childhood, which meant punishment was coming. That silence that made me feel like a 5-year-old again, waiting for the scolding. I understand, she finally said, her voice cutting like glass, and hung up. In the following days, the messages started. First subtle, passive-aggressive. That's okay, daughter. I'll spend Christmas alone anyway. I'm used to it. Your grandmother used to do this to me too. Then more dramatic. I'm thinking if it's worth continuing. Maybe it'll be my last Christmas, but you don't care, right? You have your new family now. Finally, threatening. You're going to regret excluding me from my granddaughter. You'll see what real suffering is. I ignored them all. Bruno supported me, hugged me when I started trembling reading the messages. You're doing the right thing, he repeated. You're protecting our family. But I felt a weight on my chest all the time. Guilt. That guilt she had planted in me since I was little, that grew with me like a weed. On the 23rd, I went to her house to bring the month's groceries. I had promised myself I wouldn't leave her helpless, just keep emotional distance. She was impeccable when she opened the door. Makeup on, hair done, nice clothes. Hi, Mom, I brought the groceries. She barely looked at me. You can leave it there, she said, already turning her back. I put everything away in the cabinets. I opened the fridge, full of fresh food, fruits, vegetables, freezer full of meat, cabinets with supplies for months. I noted everything mentally, not yet knowing this would save me. Mom, do you need anything else? Medicine? Anything? She sighed dramatically as if I had asked the most absurd question in the world. I need my daughter. But you can't give me that, right? You preferred your husband and his kids. Mom, they're my kids too. She gave me an icy look. They are, but you're not mine anymore. I left there with a heavy heart but determined. I took pictures of the full fridge before leaving. I don't know why, I just felt I should. Christmas would be without her. And it was wonderful. We woke up early. Sophia and Miguel jumped on our bed excited. We opened presents. Laughter filled the house. We made a delicious lunch. Turkey that didn't go in the trash. Trifle that the kids helped make. Sophia was radiant with her new doll. Miguel ran around the house all day with his fire truck. Bruno hugged me at night and whispered, "See? We managed to have a happy Christmas. A real Christmas." On the 26th, we decided to have a second day of Christmas. We woke up late, stayed in our pajamas. We ordered pizza at night, something my mother hated, said it was poor people food. We put the kids in new pajamas they had received. We were watching a Disney movie when the doorbell rang. Bruno got up. I heard voices at the door. A woman's voice, professional, serious. My heart started pounding. I knew. Somehow, I already knew. Bruno came back to the living room with a woman in her 50s, short hair, carrying a folder. "Camilla? I'm Marcia from Child Protective Services. I need to talk to you about a report we received." I felt my legs weaken. The kids were right there. Sophia looked at me confused. Miguel was glued to the TV. "Bruno, can you take the kids to the bedroom?" My voice came out steady, but my hands were shaking. He understood immediately. Took both of them, Sophia protesting that she wanted to finish watching the movie. When they left, I turned to Marcia. My mother called, didn't she? She nodded, opening the folder. We received a report on the 24th. Your mother, Regina Santos, said she hasn't seen you in weeks, that she has no food, no medication, that she's been abandoned. My vision blurred. Rage and humiliation mixed together. I was at her house 3 days ago, on the 23rd. I brought a month's worth of groceries. Her fridge was full, her cabinets were full. She just got back from a cruise 2 weeks ago. Marcia wrote something down. Do you have proof of that? I grabbed my phone. I had taken pictures. I showed her, the fridge full of food, the cabinets, the freezer. I showed her my bank statements, the grocery purchases from the 23rd. I showed her the cruise ticket my mother had posted on Facebook. She does this. It's the 4th time this year. She's already filed 3 other false reports. At the police station, at the hospital, at my job. My voice was starting to break. Marcia looked at me for a long time. Can I see your mother's house? I need to verify the report. We went together. I called ahead, but she didn't answer. We rang the doorbell. She took a while to answer. When she opened the door, she was impeccable again. Makeup, hair done. Hi, daughter. What a surprise. I didn't know you still remembered you had a mother. Her voice was sweet, but her eyes were cold as ice. Mrs. Regina, I'm Marcia from Child Protective Services. We're here to verify the report you filed. My mother's face changed. For a second, I saw panic, but then she put on a mask of sadness. Oh yes, I called because I was so lonely, so abandoned. But look, my daughter finally came. It's a Christmas miracle. Marcia was direct. Can I see your kitchen? We entered. The fridge was exactly as I had left it 3 days ago. Full. The cabinets, full. Marcia opened everything, checked, took notes. My mother tried to justify. Oh, but I had nothing before Camilla brought this. I was starving for days. I interrupted, my voice firmer than I expected. Mom, the groceries I brought are good for a month. There's fresh food here from the day before yesterday. That lettuce wasn't here when I came. Marcia closed her folder, looked at my mother with a serious, firm look. Mrs. Regina, filing a false report is a crime. You reported being abandoned, without food, without care. But the evidence shows the opposite. Your daughter was here recently. You have plenty of food and supplies. You're clearly in good health. My mother started crying, fake tears I knew so well. But I'm so lonely. My daughter abandoned me at Christmas. She doesn't love me anymore. I couldn't take it anymore. Years of repressed rage finally erupted. I didn't abandon you. I was here 3 days ago. You filed 4 false reports against me this year. You called the police saying I stole jewelry that never existed. You called 911 saying you were having a heart attack when you were eating popcorn. Watching TV. You called my job saying I was stealing from you when I don't even have access to your accounts. And now you do this in front of my children? The tears dried up instantly. Her face became hard, cold. You deserve it. You abandoned me at Christmas, Marcia intervened. Mrs. Regina, I need you to understand the seriousness of this. I'm going to ask you to step outside with me for a moment. Camilla, please wait here. They went out to the porch. I could hear muffled voices. My mother trying to cry again, Marcia's firm, professional voice. When they came back, Marcia had a more serious face. Camilla, can we go back to your house? I need to document some things. Back at my house, Bruno had already put the kids to bed. Marcia sat down at the kitchen table with me. I need you to be completely honest with me. What's your relationship with your mother really like? And I told her everything. The 32 years of emotional manipulation, the constant dramas, the invented crises, the punishment silences, the emotional blackmail, the false accusations, the ruined Christmas from last year, the threatening messages, everything. I cried for the first time in months, Bruno holding my hand. I felt the rage burning. I used to go there every week until last month. I stopped because she filed the 3rd false report at my company. I can't take it anymore. Marcia looked me in the eyes, and for the first time I saw empathy there. Camilla, in 20 years working for Child Protective Services, I've seen many cases. Real cases of abandonment, violence, neglect, and this is clearly a case of emotional manipulation and psychological abuse. Your mother isn't abandoned. She's using the system to punish you because you set a boundary. I felt tears coming back, but this time from relief. I know, but nobody believes me. She's so convincing, so dramatic. The counselor opened a folder, took out papers. I did a search in the system. Your mother has already contacted CPS 2 other times. Once in 2019 against your cousin Paula, also claiming abandonment. Another time in 2021 against a neighbor, Mrs. Marta, saying she was being threatened with death. In both cases, after investigation, the reports were dismissed as unfounded and baseless. My jaw dropped. I felt the floor disappear. I didn't know that. She never told me. Of course not, because she knew I would see the pattern. I'm going to officially dismiss this report as unfounded and baseless. And I'm going to make a detailed report about the pattern of behavior. If she does this again with you or with anyone else, we'll have a complete record that can be used against her. I felt immense, overwhelming relief. Thank you so much. Really. Marcia wasn't finished. Her face became more serious. But I need you to know, your mother needs psychiatric help. This behavior isn't normal. It isn't healthy. And from my experience, it's going to get worse. She's going to escalate. I strongly recommend you consider legal protective measures. That afternoon, I went to my mother's house. For the last time, I knew. Bruno offered to go with me. I said no, that I needed to do this alone. I rang the doorbell. She opened it with a wide, fake smile. Hi, daughter. I heard CPS went to your place yesterday. Sorry, I was confused. I really thought you had abandoned me. The voice was syrupy, artificial. I interrupted her, my voice coming out firmer than I expected. No, enough. There won't be any more excuses. No more drama. No more anything. I took a folder from my purse. She looked at the folder with suspicion. This is an extrajudicial notice written by my lawyer. I'm requesting a protective order of distance against you. You can no longer call me, look for me, show up at my house, or make any kind of false accusation against me. I put the folder in her hand. I have documented 3 police reports of your false accusations, 4 reports dismissed as unfounded, including this last one from CPS, screenshots of threatening messages, and witnesses to everything you've done. I have proof that you were fine when you made the report, photos of your house, bank statements. Her smile died completely. Her face became hard, cold. You can't do this to me. I'm your mother. My voice didn't tremble. You're a person who has been destroying me slowly for 32 years. And now you're starting to destroy my children. I won't allow it. I've already submitted everything. The protective order should be issued in a few days. And if you violate it, you'll face criminal charges for false accusation, harassment, and violation of a protective order. Besides, I've gathered enough evidence to sue you for emotional damages, and I will sue. She tried to cry, forced tears streaming down. I'm your mother. I raised you. You can't abandon me. I took a step back. You're not the victim. You're a toxic and manipulative person who uses emotional blackmail as a weapon, who makes up illnesses, who files false reports, who tries to destroy my reputation and my job. And I won't allow you to destroy my family and my life anymore. I left without looking back. She screamed my name from the door, but I didn't stop. I got in the car and drove home. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel, but it was a different kind of trembling. It was fear, but it was also liberation. The protective order came out in a week. Over the past 2 years, she tried to contact me 7 times through different phone numbers, fake emails, even sent a letter through the mail. All attempts were documented and forwarded to my lawyer. The lawsuit for emotional damages lasted a year. In court, she cried, made a scene, said she was sick, that I was cruel. But the judge saw the evidence. 4 false reports, 3 against me, 2 against other family members. Clear pattern of abusive behavior. She was convicted. She had to pay me $20,000 in emotional damages and undergo mandatory psychiatric treatment for 2 years. Sophia is 7 years old now and doesn't remember her grandmother anymore. When she asks, I tell her the truth, adapted for her age. Grandma Regina was sick, not in her body, but in her mind, and she hurt people, including Mommy. So we had to distance ourselves to stay safe and happy. Miguel doesn't even remember her. For him, the only grandparents are Bruno's parents, who are present, loving, and respectful. Today I sleep in peace. I don't wake up in the middle of the night with my heart racing thinking about what new message she'll send. I'm not afraid to answer the phone anymore. I no longer live in a constant state of alert waiting for the next drama, the next invented crisis, the next false accusation. I learned that being a daughter doesn't mean being a hostage, that real love doesn't manipulate, doesn't threaten, doesn't destroy. That family isn't who has the same blood, but who respects you, supports you, and truly wants what's best for you. And I learned that I can break the cycle. My children won't grow up walking on eggshells, afraid to displease me. They'll grow up knowing they're loved unconditionally, and that boundaries exist to protect, not to control. This is the legacy I chose to leave for them. Did you like Camilla's story? Then subscribe to the channel, leave your like, and comment where you're watching from. Oh, and there's another story waiting for you here on the screen. Click there and I'll be waiting for you.